This exercise is a great end range strength drill for your hip flexors that will also challenge your hip extension on the opposite side as well, which is great for a lot of different reasons, but especially for our gait cycle with running and walking. So to perform this exercise, you're gonna get into the half kneel position, and you're gonna need 1 or 2 sticks or just 2 things to support yourself so that you can have some stability created from your upper body and get more out of the exercise. This is going to limit you if you do not have a little bit of assistance. This is not cheating, it is helping you tap into your actual strength. The other thing you're gonna need is something to set your foot on. If you have a ton of flexibility and can get your knee into your chest, then you might want something tall like a box. If you do not have as much flexibility, we're gonna think about a couple of textbooks or a yoga block or 2. To set up for this movement, you're going to find the position. Sometimes when we do these lift-offs, it takes a bit to find the different levels that are appropriate for our bodies. So what we're trying to do is find an appropriate position that is as tall as possible in our end range hip flexion, which is this movement, that we can execute the exercise with a lot of attention and only get our foot off of the surface about an inch. Now, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to set yourself up, make sure your pelvis is pretty level. We're not like hiked in one position or the other. And you wanna make sure your rib cage and pelvis are stacked, not leaning super far forward. Before you try to lift this foot up, I want you to think about driving the kneeling leg down, squeezing that glute and pushing your hip forwards. From there, you're then going to start to contract your front of your hip muscles and float the knee up. That is very different than just lifting. Notice how I rounded, I dropped my position. We want to really drive the stance leg up or stance leg down, the kneeling leg down, so that we can slowly float the leg up and hold. Now, common compensations for this will be falling forward and bringing the chest down, or sliding the foot off, forward or back. Notice that was my knee moving at this joint, not just my hip. So last option here is if you attempted it and you could lift several inches off the ground without leaning and compensating, then you need to go higher, make your yoga block higher, make your box higher, do what you need to get into a harder position so that you have to really, really focus and make this intentional. You should be very fried with just a few reps. If you find that it's relatively easy and you could probably do a lot more, you need to challenge yourself a little bit more. Now, if that is the opposite for you and you feel like you can't do the exercise without compensating, then by all means, drop it down and find a position that you can feel what you need to feel and practice this skill, and then slowly you'll be able to progress to a higher position. Progress for this is definitely going to be usually progress like ranges of motion higher and higher, rather than trying to add time or add weight or add reps. For some people, those are what we focus on, but most often your goal is to try to progress the position first, since this is really an exercise that is supposed to capture more of your flexibility and turn it into strength and usable range of motion.